It's Emil. It's Emil Guillermo. Emil, I'm up to you. How are you? Here we are in the Gong Closet, just me and you for Emil Amok's Takeout. Emil Amok's Takeout is the podcast that I do, and you can go wherever you podcast and you can listen to an interview show that I do. Infrequent, because I love doing this live. I just send it out there live, and wherever you're listening to this, you found us at Emil Amok, at emilguillermo.media on Facebook, or on Emil Guillermo on Facebook, or on Emil Amok, EMILAMOK on Twitter, at Emil Amok. You're just saying, what is this guy? He's always showing up. He changes his reading glasses, and he's got the Harry Potter ones on today. But really, I do this because what else does a former broadcaster, talk show host do but talk about the columns he writes right here for you on Twitter? But of course, you can read me at ALDEF, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, aldef.org/blog. Read my latest on Larry Itliong and Colin Powell. Itliong had principles. Powell had medals. What? Itliong was not a soldier. He was not a general. He was the labor leader in the Central Valley in the 1960s who started the Delano Grape Strike, the historic Delano Grape Strike, because it brought together the civil rights movement and the labor rights movement, and he was leading Filipinos who were working in the fields they wanted $1.40 an hour, and the growers wouldn't give it to them, so they struck the grape strike. Oh, Emil, you mean that grape strike that Cesar shot? No, it wasn't Chavez. Itliong started it, and then Chavez came because Chavez realized Chavez wasn't even in the union business. He had essentially a social thing for Mexican farm workers, and it wasn't AFL-CIO, not like Itliong, the agricultural workers. But check that out on the ALDEF blog, ALDEF.org/blog, and see why I got all upset about Colin Powell, because I gave Powell too much credit, because Powell had more medals than principles. That we know now. We know that now. But I was just being compassionate. But my lefty friends got to me and they said, Emil, you can't say that about Colin Powell. Made some major mistakes. You can't just let him get away. He's dead. You can't let him get away with it. I say he's dead. I can show compassion to Powell, but I can also talk about him honestly and truthfully. So check out AALDF.org/blog. I'm here Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, live, where we do this thing called Emil Amok's Takeout Live, because live is dangerous, and we can say dangerous things when we're live in front of a gong, in a closet, somewhere in the depths of California. Emil Amok. You can email me if you say, hey, I saw this thing and I wanted to email you. Are you sure you want to do this? Emil@amok.com. AMOK.com. That's also another place where you can get the replays of this. Because I'm doing this live, but you can see replays at AMOK.com. I call this the micro talk show of the AAPI and the AAXs, but look, it's for all the rest of you too, because we're doing it in English. No secret code here. People who speak English, if you're not an Asian American, but we do this because, look, consider this. All this stuff happening in the news, does anyone ask what an Asian American thinks? Of course not. They just say, oh, well, they'll go along with that. Because, we see Asians on the news like, I don't know, Sanjay Gupta. He's South Asian, but, Indian American. We just assume, oh, well, He's just included in any assessment. All the Indians, all the Filipinos, all the Chinese, they're just included, right? No. Sometimes you have to ask. Sometimes it helps you if you ask, you know, WDAAT. What that? What does an Asian American think? I mean, they don't ask. I mean, there's polls out in Virginia saying, who's ahead, this, McAuliffe or the other guy. A lot of Asian Americans in Virginia, they're voting in the upcoming election there in the gubernatorial election. It's neck and neck, but all right, so when it's so close, you got to drill down and see, well, where are the Asians? Are they going to be significant? Maybe, maybe not. But in Arlington, across the river from DC, right? Lots of Asian Americans there. Lots of Asian American conservatives could make a difference. That Northern Virginia area. What does an Asian American think? We feel the voice. We talk about it, and you can just ask me. Say, well, I heard Emil Amok on his takeout. Here's what he said. He said, it's going to be tight, but the Asians generally probably will be down for McAuliffe. I think the Asian Americans in Virginia are solidly Democratic, although it's split. Like I said, that conservative edge in Arlington, mostly Vietnamese, but also some conservative Filipinos. And then you got the Filipinos down there in the Hampton Roads area in Virginia. Oh, it's going to be tight. It's going to be tight there for McAuliffe. Bobby Scott, Filipino American, half black. I think maybe 3/4 black. His grandmother is Filipino, I believe. But Bobby Scott out there in Hampton Roads, he's looking at that election. I mean, he's a Democrat. And Democrats all over are looking at this because what could happen, in the midterm. So, as I said, what does an Asian American, people don't even think about us. But we could be significant in Virginia. We could be significant in any election, especially in places where there are lots of Asian Americans, like California, like Hawaii, like Alaska, like New York, Virginia, Maryland. Some places, people don't even think Asian Americans are there. But they are thinking more, like Minnesota. The Hmong are making inroads there. The Hmong. They started in California. They were brought over first to California, then Wisconsin, Minnesota. They've established a base in Minnesota. Anyway, this is the micro talk show of the AAPI and the AAXs and the ALs and the alls. And we talk about things, mostly things that I'm thinking about. I'll tell you what I'm thinking about. Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle is, it was in the news again yesterday, right? Because he did the special, The Closer. If you haven't seen the special, The Closer, he asks that you watch it. I mean, he's plugging away always. Look, he's marketing. Brilliant comedian. I've seen him live. I like him. Look, Dave Chappelle is also married to a Filipino American, so he's got Filipino American kids, or at least half. He lives there in Ohio. So I want to mention Dave Chappelle right off the bat because a lot of people are getting on Dave Chappelle saying, hey, you're anti-trans. If you listen to the whole darn thing, I don't think you'll think he's anti-trans. He says some things that are problematic, but it's just open for discussion. Hey, America, let's debate it. I still don't know what trans exclusive radical feminism is. I guess that means you are a woman and that's your extent of your feminism and you exclude trans. Well, that's not right. Because trans women are women. They are feminists. And if you're going to exclude them, well, then you're just being somewhat bigoted. But I think that's part of the debate. That's part of the debate here now. And like I said, if you listen to the whole thing that Chappelle did on Netflix, you'll see that it's not so black and white in terms of, oh, he's anti-trans. Tells a very sympathetic story about a trans fan. He gives a break to a trans comedian. Wasn't very funny, but it's a touching bit in the end that shows that Chappelle is not some transphobic guy that people think. He might be a guy who has some opinions that need airing out, and maybe in an open discussion, there might be something that might persuade him or change him. For example, he says, look, he'll talk to trans activists anywhere. He said, though, here are the conditions. It's got to be a place where he, and I don't think that's such a unreasonable thing. A place that he designates, a place that he wants to go to. He's a public figure. And he's got to be concerned about that. But I think the biggest thing that he said that I think is true is if you're going to criticize Dave Chappelle, you got to see the entire bit of the closer. And then you should understand that the chasm isn't as far as you think between Chappelle and trans activists. Although I think Chappelle needs to understand that anything negative about trans people tends to generally make things a little more difficult because people who are anti-trans get empowered by the thought that, oh, here's Chappelle, he's anti-trans. He's not anti-trans. I don't think. Not if you listen to the whole thing. But it's one of those differences of opinion that is still open for debate. I don't think he's closed the door totally. That's a nuance. But I'm telling you, I think it's interesting how this is blown up. Just as at the time that Chappelle is starting his tour. And this is one of the reasons I bring it up, because I got this message saying of Chappelle tickets on sale. Chappelle tickets on sale. I thought, okay, great. People are like coming out of the woodwork. And then Chappelle had COVID. And so, I mean, he's younger than me. He's ready to take on the world. Okay, so I checked out the Chappelle tickets. He's appearing in San Francisco sometime in November, first week in November. Here's what they wanted for tickets. $2,117.60 each for front row. If you want to sit on the floor, front row, that's what it was. $2,017.60 each, not including the fee for getting it online. My God. $2,000 each to see Chappelle live. I think I'll watch the closer again and memorize it, and that'll be enough, I think. $2,000. Okay, what are the cheap seats? Okay, back off the floor. This is at the Chase Center where the Warriors play basketball. The cheapest one that I could find on the, I guess it's called like a mezzanine level above the floor, $381.70 each. Okay, I'm not seeing Chappelle. We'll throw viewing parties for the closer. Anyway, I mean, that's some ticket price. And then in the seats where you're way in the back, and you've got to watch Chappelle on a big screen, I imagine. I didn't even look, but I imagine they must be a couple $100 at least each. So that's the price you pay to see Chappelle in a big arena in San Francisco in November. I was shocked. shocked I was. But I just imagine this is the reason why he's, all the hubbub with, okay, I'm going to meet with the trans folks, the trans activists under my rules. I think that's fair. But I think also it comes at a time when he benefits. And so you say, okay, look, Dave, we'll continue the debate. I've got trans people in my family, got trans friends. I even find Hannah Gadsby funny. I just don't want to. I think Dave is open to discussion. He's married to a Filipino. It's got to be open. All right. Baseball started up last night. Here's the thing. If you're a regular listener of this show, some people like to look at it. This is why I like Twitter, because you can go to the Twitter thing, and I'm not any bigger than your Twitter, your phone. And you say, oh, it's Emil contained. It's not like Emil Unbound, like I'm watching him on a big screen TV or something. It's like, even you got a Max iPhone. It's like, oh, I've got him. I got Emil contained in the palm of my hand. So if you're watching the World Series, and I talk sports a lot, and if you've seen this show, I've taken on Stephen A. Smith. He said, look, I'm a flea. I'm a flea to Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A., I'm not even his former, I'm not even Max, the guy he dumped. I'm not even Max, who I think Max Kellerman, smart guy, good sports guy. But look, he was carrying Stephen A.'s water, and at some point, Stephen A., it's a one-man show, except for the woman he's with, Molly, who's interesting, but it's Stephen A.'s show, and occasionally brings on Michael Irvin. But look, I had a bone to pick with Stephen A. over Shohei Ohtani, because in the All-Star game, Stephen A. made really a xenophobic comment, saying that, oh, hey, baseball, you're in trouble when your best player is an Asian and he doesn't even speak English. Like, look, Shohei Ohtani is a great player. He's a once-in-a-lifetime guy. And we need to praise and honor him and not make these not trans, but xenophobic remarks, anti-Asian remarks about Shohei Ohtani. So once again, if you go to the ALDEF blog, aaldf.org/blog, I wrote about Shohei. I wrote about, what was wrong with Stephen A. And I called him out. I said Stephen A. was the Al Campanis of 2021. Al Campanis. He made racist remarks back in the 80s and got fired for it. But of course, ESPN wouldn't fire Stephen A. because Stephen A. is making $12 million a year. That's more than a relief pitcher in Major League Baseball. But so just to put it in perspective, and not a home run hitter, but more like a relief pitcher. Will Smith of the Atlanta Braves, that's what he makes a year. That's not what I make. Not in front of a gong. So I just want to point out, Stephen A. made those comments, and I was watching the World Series yesterday night, and they make this brief mention, but it needs to be made even with a more finer point. Shohei Ohtani honored with the Commissioner's Historic Achievement Award for unprecedented two-way performance this season. I mean, they've only handed out 16 of these in Major League Baseball history. And, Shohei's accomplishments, unparalleled. 46 home runs, 100 runs, in addition to posting a 3.18 earned run average, 156 strikeouts, in 23 starts. My goodness. That's an overachieving Asian. But we honor Shohei because he was 2021. He was the best, well, one of the best stories, maybe the second best story in Major League Baseball in 2021. The best story, the San Francisco Giants. Well, okay, maybe they're the second best because they ultimately did not win and they lost to the Dodgers in the NLDS. They should have made the winner of that series go to the World Series, but they didn't. I think they could have beaten the Braves. And then it would have been the Giants and the Astros. The Giants against their old manager, Dusty Baker. That would have been a series. I would have watched that. As it is, and this is my real point about all this, as it is, the World Series between the Astros, the former cheaters, okay, 3 times in the World Series in the past 5 years, but yes, former cheaters, outed cheaters, versus the Atlanta Braves, a team that was built with like 3 months of the season left. They bought an outfield, they bought players. And that's when you buy your players. Not like a year before or 2 years before. You buy them with 3 months before the, like at that trading or the, the deadline, the roster deadline. That's the best team money can buy. Not the Yankees and not those other teams. So you gotta tip your hat to the Braves. They purchased Adam Duvall and most notably Eddie Rosario, who's been like, my God, Eddie Rosario is like betting like 500. This is the way it is in postseason. When you're a championship team and you're playing like it's Little League, right? Because in Little League, you only play like 10 games, 12 games. So if you're not batting 500, you're lousy. If you're batting 300 in Little League, hey, speaking from experience now, if you're batting 300, good for the major leagues when you're getting 500 at bats. In Little League, you're lousy. You need to be batting 500, 600, 700. Anyway, that's the postseason. That's Eddie Rosario, and that's why that's why the Braves are beating up on the Astros. But I don't even like the Braves. That chop thing. As a black indigenous person of color, a BIPOC, I am offended by the chop. So I just think of my dentist friends. I think, oh, chops. Oh, they're talking about teeth. The choppers. I just wish they'd drop the chop. And then here's the thing, because I was rooting for the Giants and the Giants aren't in there, I sort of am half watching the World Series. And this speaks to the criticism of baseball that Stephen A. had. It's not that Shohei Ohtani is the Asian who is the best player in all of baseball. It's the fact that why is it here is the Fall Classic, the World Series, and it can't even hold my attention for like the whole time. I mean, tonight's a Warrior games. I'm going to watch the Warriors play and beat the Oklahoma Thunder. Or maybe if you're another basketball fan, because there's so many sports going on, was that a better lure of your time? I mean, for me, I have to admit, I checked out, watched the Warrior game, saw Stephen Curry do well, beat up the Thunder, checked back to the game, saw that the Astros were being beaten by the Braves, checked out again. I think I was watching the news even. Anyway, that's baseball's problem. It's sort of the national pastime for some old geezers, but it's kind of slow. And if your team isn't playing, it's not as interesting. Although I'll say here's how you say, oh, there's not enough action in baseball. There's action in baseball. Every time they pick up that damn ball and fire it in, that's action. Just got to look at it as a chess match. And they're doing it every pitch. Oh, that was a four seamer. That was a curveball. That was a changeup. Every pitch, action. Does he hit it? Does he not hit it? Here's a ball coming at you at 95 miles an hour, and you're holding a toothpick. The batter's holding a toothpick trying to hit that. It's an incredibly hard game. I still love it. I still love it, I think, more than basketball and more than football. I played all the sports. As you can tell, I probably was not a great basketball player. I wasn't. I was a good football player. And it doesn't matter when you played football. Pop Warner, high school, a little bit of college. It's that you're in the huddle, and when it's raining, like the 49ers, when they played that the other night in the rain, oh, man, every single game you play in the rain, you remember, because you remember the smell, you remember the feeling, you remember, like, if you were winning and you had to, try to, like, play on defense and stop the other team, or if you're behind and you had to, like, somehow get through the slop and score a touchdown. Oh, my God. Those memories don't go away. Football. I love football, but baseball. Oh, standing in, looking at the ball come in, trying to imagine if it's, you're swinging over your head. If you're gauging it wrong, you're swinging too early. Sports. I love sports. I know some of you saying, I'll talk about the real stuff now. Okay, get the sports. No, well, yeah, I will. But it's just the World Series started last night. I'll probably watch it again tonight. But it's just that it's a shame where I'm watching it and I'm thinking, God, it just doesn't hold my attention. So I'm flipping around. But it was worth it to catch the commissioner honoring the Historic Achievement Award given to Shohei Ohtani. Man, what a guy. I love Shohei Ohtani. If you're not an Ohtani fan, catch my column on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog. I write about Shohei, and I dump on Stephen A. Smith for dumping on Ohtani. I stand by that. Stephen A. has never apologized. He should. But, he's making $12 million, and that's the way of the world, right? Money talks. Speaking of which, on the political side, the Democrats are trying to get the infrastructure plan through, and they say, well, what's in it? Now, no one knows what's in it because you got this stupid Kristen Sinema from Arizona. You read about her, and my God, how could this person be a senator when she's just, I don't know what she stands for. She's not communicating what she stands for. She's getting in the way because she knows by getting in the way, it builds her fame, if not her power. And you read a little bit about her background. Go to Politico, great article on Kristen Sinema, how she was one time a fairly traditional progressive, and now she's just all out for herself. It's really disgusting. Sinema's discussing Joe Manchin. Oh my God, Joe Manchin. He's got, between him and his wife, they've got this little fiefdom there going. A lobby. His wife's a lobbyist. Manchin is beholden to the coal and energy interests in West Virginia. I know if you're a Filipino, the Filipinos are the number one group in West Virginia as far as Asian Americans go. I hope you're giving them a piece of your mind if you're a Filipino in West Virginia. Tell them that, get on with it, buddy. America needs help. And I know Manchin and Sinema are just thinking about themselves. That is not the way a democracy should be run. But unfortunately, that's where we are in politics. And that's why I'm not in politics, because self-interest is the rule. And the further away you are from it, you can see it. But when you're close in, They're acting like they're principled, but it's self-interest, right? It's the same thing what I was saying about Powell. Powell was not acting in the public interest, not when he said in 2003 that, oh, well, Saddam has weapons of mass destruction. We should go ahead off and blow up Iraq. They were not acting in the public interest, not acting for the good of democracy or humanity. When you see all these politicians, essentially, it's all about self-interest. And I would rather not drag you down into my little funnel of self-interest. I think too much of democracy. That's why I'm not a politician. I'd rather be in my little section of the media, emphasis little section, where I get to talk about things, influence the public as much as I can. But I don't have to carry water for anyone, nor carry the weight of knowing I made a decision about Iraq. Carry that to my grave. That is the fate of Colin Powell. That is the fate of the self-serving politician. I wonder what Kirsten Sinema, what Joe Manchin will be thinking 10, 20 years from now when they say, yeah, I held up the Democrats getting a bill that would benefit all of American society. Because got to fix the infrastructure, I held it up for my self-interest with the energy companies, and for that's what Manchin would say, what Kirsten Sinema would say. Oh, there was someone put out on Twitter a shot of Sinema on the Senate floor, just checking herself out on her iPhone, the mirror, because she wanted to look good for C-SPAN. My goodness, this is the thing. Show business, or the old Jay Leno, it's attributed to Jay Leno. I've used it myself. Others have. The idea that politics is show business for ugly people. In more ways than one, it applies to Sinema and Manchin. More ways than one. But here's the thing. The Democrats are onto something now. They said, we're going to tax the billionaires. We got a plan. Yeah, I mean, they have a plan. It's pretty good. Look, here's the thing about politicians. There are always answers. There are always people say, well, how are you going to pay for it? Where are you going to get? They have the money. And so here they've come up with this plan. They didn't want to do it. That's the problem. But now they're saying, all right, well, we're going to tax the billionaires. For people with assets of people who make $100 million a year and have assets of $1 billion. There's only 800 people. Now that is a minority. That is a smaller minority than Filipinos who stand in front of a gong closet talking stuff on the internet. Actually, that's a larger minority, because I think I'm the only one who talks in front of a gong closet on the internet. But still, 800 people. You think that might be enough to get people to say, okay, yeah, let's tax these people. It took the Democrats some guts, though, and some time before they got to this place. Because frankly, yeah, tax the billionaires. Tax those people. It's not just the 1%. It's the ultra 1%. There's money there. And you know what? With the capital gains tax, you're just getting the money earlier than later. Because capital gains is at 23.8%, and no one's going to be paying more than that, really, according to the reports. It's just a way to juggle things around and get the money out there so that people can say, yeah, we're paying for this. I mean, there are other ways to pay for this. Like if you read the Pandora Papers, hey, there are all these tax havens for the rich that we can shut down and start taxing people, and we can more than make up for child tax credit, free college tuition, community college. We could do all that. But now you get down to self-interest. People are worried. They're scared. They're saying, well, if I vote for this, they're going to have a primary and I might lose. Yeah, you might lose, and you may be out of politics is where you should be. If you can't stand up for the people, you should be out of politics. Well, I got to worry about my job. No, you should not be worrying about your job. You should be worrying about the people you represent. But I gotta, I want to stay here forever like Nancy Pelosi. No, Nancy Pelosi's there because the people who voted her in like her constituents. I was a former constituent. I actually like Nancy Pelosi. I have pictures of Nancy Pelosi at a Giants game, actually a Giants victory party. I mean, they're not salacious or anything. I like Nancy Pelosi. Sorry. But I didn't like what she did to the Filipino vets. She wasn't good to the Philippines. She balked and balked and balked. Finally, 2008, 2009, Obama gets in. Boom. That's politics. But I'm just saying, thank goodness now the Democrats have embraced this idea. Well, we're not going to tax regular people. We're just going to tax the billionaires. Good idea. Great idea. In fact, I think America should be more for people who just want to be. They don't want to strive to be superior. There's going to be people who'll do that. But what about ordinary people? America should be for people who just want to live in the best democracy on earth. They want to live their life. It used to be called the middle class. And now it's no longer the middle, right? I mean, because, it can't be the middle class where the middle class is now defined by, oh, well, you're making $200,000 a year. That's middle class. That shouldn't be middle class. That shouldn't be middle class. Oh, now they divide the middle class between upper and lower. And the Democrats have to stick to this idea, taxing the billionaires, making America great again for normal people, making it okay to be okay, to not strive to be an ultra-capitalist. How about just striving to be a good person? That's what they need. So I want to talk about a couple more things. And I hope we're going out there live. I hope we're going to, someone says, live chat, but the video ain't. Video ain't live? Well, it should be. What can I say? We are live. Because this is Emil Guillermo's Takeout Live. I talked about Chappelle ticks. I talked about Shohei. Oh, I talked about F the billionaires. I'll get to Tucker Carlson in a second, and then we talk about Larry Itliong once again. This is Filipino American History Month. Larry Itliong had his day on Monday. On Sunday, Filipinos from all over the state went to Poplar, which is a godforsaken place. It's in the Central Valley. It's not necessarily godforsaken, but it's a long way from anywhere. And they named a community center because there are people there who are still, they're Mexican Americans, they're Filipino Americans, they still work in the fields. They're normal people, working with their hands, working in the very industry that the UFW, farm workers, Larry Itliong, Cesar Chavez developed. Now, once again, It's Larry Itliong Day on Monday because it was his birthday. And because he was the one who really started that strike. And he's been under recognized. But just this month, the California Hall of Fame said, hey, Larry Itliong, we're going to name you as a member. That happened on the 13th. And so Larry gets his birthday. It gets celebrated. That's been a law for a couple years since Rob Bonta, who was then assemblyman, he's now attorney general. He introduced the bill. But there was a thing that happened on Sunday. Dolores Huerta was up there talking. She was making, I hope it was a joke. She said something to the effect that, oh, Larry Itliong, I organized Larry Itliong. I don't think that's true. And you heard Dan Gonzalez yesterday talk about, I wanted to mention again today in show 167. Go back and review 166 and see what Dan Gonzalez says. Because Larry Itliong was part of the Agricultural Workers Organizing Committee. He was the one who got that strike going. I think Dolores Huerta was just, I don't know what she was doing. Trying to insert herself into history. She's been feted for the things that she did. She's a survivor now. She was in the leadership of the UFW when Itliong left. And I know that everyone I talk to about, on the Mexican American side and also on the Filipino American side, when you just talk about the main issue of who started this, Cesar Chavez or Larry Itliong, Dolores Huerta's name doesn't come up at all. And that's not because of misogyny or sexism or anything. I'm just saying it doesn't. She's an important part of the UFW ultimately later, post 65, but not at the beginning. It was Larry. And then Larry convinced Cesar Chavez, and that's how the UFW started. Anyway, I just wanted to set the record straight because some people who may have gone to Poplar were wondering, what did Larry Itliong do? Is that why Dolores Huerta is up there saying that she organized Larry Itliong? Because that means that we should be honoring Dolores Huerta today. No, it's Larry's day. Dolores has had her share of commemorations and medals. She was invited to the White House. But let's not take anything away from Larry Itliong during Filipino American History Month, during his special day, Monday, Larry Itliong Day, and on Sunday when that building in Poplar was dedicated. If you were there in Poplar, just understand the truth. Larry Itliong was first. All right, couple more minutes. This is a good time to talk about Tucker Carlson. I know, look, my wife was on Tucker Carlson last night. Some people have tweeted me, say, Emil, is that your wife? She's white. Well, yeah, my wife's white. Well, we've been married more than 30 years. She's still white. But she's really, really Filipino. I mean, I cook ampalaya, and she scrunches up her eyes. It's not her nose, because it doesn't smell it, but her eyes. And she'll taste it. She was on Tucker Carlson. But it's true what I say. Whenever she comes on Tucker Carlson, when she gets home, I make her sleep on the couch for at least 48 hours. I mean, it's like a quarantine. No, the thing about the Tucker Carlson show, he has an audience. Me, I have a cult. But Tucker Carlson has an audience. And it's an audience of people who are mostly conservative. Okay, let's say they're all 100% conservative, except for the people like myself who will watch it because I know someone who's on it, like, when my wife is on, or I want to watch it because I want to see what the other side is thinking. Here's what I think about his show. His show doesn't really cover the news. His show covers things that qualify as red meat for his crowd. So there was something about trans people. There was something, like an anti-bathroom thing. And there was something about Hunter Biden's artwork. I mean, stuff that you wouldn't see anywhere else. But then he had on my wife, who works for PETA. And one of the things that I like about what's going on here is that some news is siloed, right? There's conservative news, there's liberal news, there's far left news. And it's interesting to see who covers what. The conservatives love animal rights. And I think it's kind of interesting that they do, because the liberals do, everyone else does. And I was thinking to myself, is animal rights the one bit of common ground we have left in America? In a world where it's donkey versus elephant, and the chasm is so wide between donkey and elephant that the thing that brings them together is animal rights. See, that's the thing. The conservative media the last couple of days, I don't know if you've been following it, but they have just gone ape over the idea that the National Institutes of Health, especially the division under Anthony Fauci, has been doing these animal tests in, of all places, Tunisia, funding tests involving dogs and fleas, sand fleas. And they do these weird things to the dogs and let them get bitten by the sand fleas. And for what, $375,000, this is funded, and it's useless junk science, baloney science, and it should be stopped. Now, the conservatives want to go a little further. They want to get at Anthony Fauci. But I think we're all looking at it the same way. We shouldn't be wasteful with our money on useless animal experiments that are cruel to animals. We're all animal lovers. Donkey and elephant. And I just find it interesting. I mean, my wife is on the PETA podcast. I interviewed her, and she told me about an FDA initiative, a bill that brings together Cory Booker from New Jersey and Rand Paul from Kentucky, polar opposites, introducing a bill working together. Animal rights is the area of bipartisanship that we may be, it may be it right now. I mean, if the mansion cinema thing, blows up the Biden plan, if people can't get together on a variety of issues, but they can get together on animal rights, that's something. Now, I'm just pointing it out because I'm seeing it firsthand. And I'm seeing legislation, that FDA package, Booker and Rand Paul. I think that may be the way in, talking about each other as animals, that will light up the compassion and bring us together and bridge that divide that exists in this country. It's positive in a way, because We see that there is feeling, there is compassion, there's a way out of this situation we have, where it seems that it's no longer gridlock, because gridlock presupposes that people are together. Gridlock presupposes that there's a kind of closeness to each other. Oh, we can't move, we're so tight. No, we're more like far apart, to the degree that we are moving in almost parallel universes, right? Left, right, Republican. It really is kind of sad. Parallel Americas. It makes gridlock look good, because at least we were close. And the way out, the way to bring us back together, to bridge this, is not to be intolerant about Chappelle says this, cancel culture. Forget that. We can bridge the gap by showing a little compassion. First to ourselves, and then to each other. Just my observation. Just my observation. But you got a better answer? The donkey and elephant realize they're animals, and they come together. Could be our best hope. So, what does an Asian American think? I just told you what an Asian American thinks. Here on show 167, we talked about Chappelle ticks, $2,000 each. Oh my God. Shohei Ohtani, the best player, the best thing in Major League Baseball, and baseball's in trouble when you'd rather watch a basketball game than the World Series. We talked about Itliong first. We talked about F the billionaires. F the billionaires. Let's raise up the non-elite working class. Not even working class. Just making enough money. Having fun. Smiling. Appreciating each other. You don't need a private jet. You don't need all the things that people say you need. You need to be happy right now. Right now. I assure you, you'd be happier than Tucker Carlson. I mean, look, I liked him better when he had the bow tie. Now he's got a regular tie. He doesn't even have a Filipino scarf. Filipino scarf. But, I think the way out, like I said, we don't look to attack each other. We look to come together as fellow animals. That's the way out. Hey, everyone, thank you for being here. Like I say, be here, bang the gong now. Facebook at emilguillermo.media. Check me out at amok.com. You can Twitter. You can always watch the show on Twitter at Emil Amok. I show replays up there. This is show 167, incidentally. Replays also at amok.com. Read my column. Yeah, my column. I write this column on ALDEF, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund. We're here not every day, Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific live. That's when I come on and do this show, because it's live and it's dangerous. Email me if you wish at Emil Amok, EMIL at AMOK.com. We do the micro talk show, the AAPI and the AAX. And the ALLs, that's you, all the rest of you. All the rest of y'alls. Hey, thank you, really, thank you for being here. And if you've made it this far, toward the end, this is where give yourself a self hug. You're good. You're worthy. You belong. Don't let that shame, don't let that self-doubt get to you. Come on. Stand tall. Stand tall. Sit tall. Thanks again for being here. So just remember this when you're faced with those moments. Just as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be happy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Back next time. Till then, mahal kita.